Sarah signs a lease. Mike signs a mortgage. They both think they made the right call. And for the first few years, neither of them can prove the other one wrong. But when you actually run the numbers, all of them, not just the monthly payment, the gap between these two decisions is a lot bigger than most people expect, and it doesn't always go the direction you think. Let's set this up properly. Sarah and Mike are both 28. Both living in the same city, same neighborhood, same zip code. They both make $75,000 a year. They've been looking at the same area, and they both find something that works. Sarah finds a two-bedroom apartment for $2,100 a month. Mike finds a similar two-bedroom house listed at $350,000. Same city, same commute, same life, basically, except what they sign at the end of the process. Mike puts 10% down. That's $35,000 out of pocket on day one. His mortgage is a 30-year fixed at 7% interest. His monthly payment comes out to $2,094, almost identical to Sarah's rent. Mike sees this and thinks he's found the cheat code. Same monthly cost, but he's building equity. He's investing. He's doing what he was told to do. Sarah thinks she's free. No property taxes, no repairs, no commitment. She can leave in 12 months if she wants to. She puts that $35,000 she didn't spend on a down payment into an index fund and doesn't touch it. On paper, they look identical. Same city, same income, same monthly outflow. But what's actually happening underneath is completely different. I've watched people make this comparison their entire adult lives and get it wrong because they only look at month one. Let's look at what Mike is actually paying. His mortgage payment is $2,094, but that's not his housing cost. His property taxes on a $350,000 home run about $350 a month depending on where he lives. Let's use a conservative number. Homeowner's insurance is another $120 a month. And here's the one people always forget: maintenance. The rule most financial planners use is 1% of the home's value per year for maintenance and repairs. On a $350,000 home, that's $3,500 a year, $292 a month. Roof repairs, HVAC, water heater, plumbing, these things don't ask for permission before they break. So Mike's real monthly housing cost is closer to $2,856, not $2,094. Sarah's is $2,100. Full stop. That's a $756 difference every single month. Sarah takes that difference and adds it to her investment contributions. She's not blowing it, she's stacking it. Now here's where Mike's side of the equation gets more complicated. Of his $2,094 mortgage payment, how much is actually going toward the house? In the first year of a 7% mortgage, the vast majority of every payment is interest. Month one, Mike pays $2,094. About $2,042 of that goes to the bank as interest. $52 goes toward paying down the actual loan. $52 on a $315,000 loan balance. I've seen people genuinely shocked when they find this out. They think they're building equity every month, and technically they are, just not in the way they imagined. By the end of year one, Mike has paid $25,128 in mortgage payments. His loan balance has gone from $315,000 to roughly $313,700. He's paid down $1,300 of principal in 12 months. The rest, about $23,800, went to the bank. That's not an argument against buying a home. It's just the math. And you should know it before you sign. Now let's look at the other side. Wow, what's happening to the home's value? The U.S. national average for home appreciation has historically been around 3 to 4% per year. Some years more, some years nothing, some years negative. Let's use 3% because it's realistic and defensible. On a $350,000 home, that's $10,500 in appreciation in year one. By the end of year one, Mike's home is worth approximately $360,500. His equity position, $360,500 minus his $313,700 loan balance equals $46,800. He started with $35,000 in equity from the down payment. He's added about $11,800 in 1 year through appreciation and principal paydown combined. That's a return on his $35,000 investment of about 33%. That sounds incredible, and it is on paper. but it doesn't account for what he paid to get there. He spent $34,272 in mortgage payments, $4,200 in property taxes, $1,440 in insurance, $3,500 in maintenance. That's $43,412 in total housing costs in year one. His equity grew by $11,800. His net position after costs, he's in the hole by $31,612 in year one. Sarah spent $25,200 in rent. Her $35,000 in the index fund, assuming an 8% return, grew to $37,800. She added $2,600 in gains without doing anything. Her net position, she spent $25,200 and gained $2,600. She's down $22,600 on the year. Year one, Sarah is ahead by about $9,000 in pure cash flow terms. But this is where the story starts to shift. Because Mike's home keeps appreciating, and his mortgage payment never changes. Sarah's rent does. The average rent increase in the US is around 3 to 5% per year. Sarah's $2,100 rent doesn't stay $2,100. In year two, it's $2,163. Year three, $2,227. Year five, $2,363. Year 10, she could be paying $2,700 or more for the same apartment. Mike's mortgage payment in year 10, still $2,094, exactly the same as day one. I've seen people rent for 15 years thinking they were being smart, and then realize their rent has gone up $800 a month while their neighbor's mortgage payment hasn't moved an inch. Let's fast forward to year 10. Mike's home, appreciating at 3% annually, is now worth approximately $470,000. His remaining loan balance is around $285,000. His equity, $185,000. He put in $35,000 to start. That's real wealth that didn't exist before. His total housing costs over 10 years, mortgage payments, taxes, insurance, maintenance, roughly $430,000. Sarah's total rent over 10 years, accounting for annual increases, roughly $285,000, significantly less than Mike spent. Her $35,000 index fund, at 8% annual return compounded over 10 years, is now worth approximately $75,500. Plus, whatever she invested from the monthly savings differential, let's say she consistently invested $500 a month from the cost difference. That's another $90,000 roughly, with returns included. Sarah's total investment portfolio at year 10, somewhere around $165,000. Mike's net position, $185,000 in home equity minus total excess costs compared to renting. It gets complicated here, but his equity is real and it's substantial. Here's what's actually happening at the 10-year mark. They're closer than either of them expected. Mike has more illiquid wealth, equity locked in a home. Sarah has more liquid wealth, money she can actually access without selling anything. And this is the part of the conversation that nobody has. Home equity is not the same as money in your account. If Mike wants to access that $185,000, he has three options. Sell the house, which means moving. Take out a home equity loan, which means more debt and more interest. Or do nothing, which means the money just sits there. Sarah can sell her index fund on a Tuesday afternoon and have cash in her account by Thursday. Liquidity is a form of wealth that never shows up in the renting is throwing money away argument. And I've seen people ignore it until the moment they needed it. A job loss, a medical bill, an opportunity that required capital, and they were sitting on $200,000 in home equity they couldn't touch without jumping through hoops. Now let's talk about the thing nobody puts in the spreadsheet: transaction costs. When Mike eventually sells that house, and statistically, the average American moves every 5 to 7 years, he's going to pay. Realtor commissions typically run 5 to 6% of the sale price. On a $470,000 home, that's $23,500 to $28,200. Gone, right off the top, before he sees a dollar. Add closing costs, moving costs, potential repairs to prepare for sale. Mike is writing a $35,000 to $40,000 check just to exit the transaction. That cost doesn't exist for Sarah. She gives 60 days notice and she's done. So who wins? The honest answer is It depends on three things that most people don't control as well as they think they do. How long you stay. If Mike stays in that house for 20 or 30 years, the math tilts heavily in his favor. His mortgage gets paid off. His equity is massive. His monthly cost drops to taxes, insurance, and maintenance, maybe $700 a month. Sarah is still paying rent, probably $3,500 a month by then. Mike wins, and it's not close. But if Mike moves in 5 years, the transaction costs alone may have wiped out most of his equity gains. I've seen people buy a home, sell it 4 years later, and walk away with almost nothing after you account for what they paid in interest, taxes, and realtor fees. Where you buy. Home appreciation is not uniform. In some markets, 3% a year is conservative. In others, homes have barely kept up with inflation for decades. Buying in the right city at the right time can make the math look like genius. Buying in the wrong market can leave you underwater for years. What you do with the difference. This is the one that kills most renters. The math only works in Sarah's favor if she actually invests the money she's saving. If she upgrades her apartment every 2 years and spends the difference on lifestyle, she loses. Badly. Renting is not a wealth-building strategy on its own. It's only a wealth-building strategy if the savings get deployed. Here's what I keep coming back to after watching people make this decision for years. The renting is throwing money away argument is lazy. Every month you pay rent, you get something in return. A place to live, flexibility, zero maintenance responsibility, and the ability to move when your life changes. That's not nothing. That's not throwing money away. That's paying for a service. But buying a home forces a kind of savings discipline that most people don't have naturally. Your mortgage payment goes out whether you feel like it or not. Your equity builds whether you think about it or not. For people who would otherwise spend everything they make, a mortgage is the best forced savings account ever invented. The real question isn't whether renting or buying is better in the abstract. The real question is which one works for your actual life, your timeline, your city, your discipline, your career trajectory. A 26-year-old who's going to move cities every few years for work has almost no business buying a home right now. The math doesn't support it. The flexibility of renting is worth real money in that situation. A 35-year-old with a stable job, kids in school, and no plans to move for the next 15 years. Buying probably makes sense, not because renting is throwing money away, but because the long timeline lets the math work out. The monthly payment is not the number that matters. It never was. The number that matters is what this decision costs you or makes you over the full timeline of your life. Run that math before you sign anything, because Sarah and Mike didn't sit down and do this math before they made their decisions. They went with their gut. They went with what they were told. And for the first few years, both of them thought they made the right call. The difference only shows up later, and by then, the decision is already made.